Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Lawless podcast. And today we're joined by Fred Davies, Durham's first team captain and going on to play professional next year. So Fred, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Nice one. And yeah, we just want to bring this straight back to the beginning. Where did your rugby career begin and what sort of inspired you to begin playing?
Yeah, I guess I come from a massive rugby family. Three older brothers all play. My old man played as well. Um, but with my old man's job, we sort of travelled around a bit. So I was over in Holland and in Belgium there. So I've been playing all over. And that started fairly young. I must have been about 4 or 5 playing sort of tag rugby out there, which was a different standard. But no, I was there and played a bit in Belgium, and then came back here to the UK when I was about 13. Went to a rugby playing school called Oakham in the Midlands, and then just played schoolboy rugby until 16, 17, 18, where I played at Northampton for a couple of years. And then from Northampton, played a lot of the Academy League stuff. And then from there, had managed to pick up something in Australia to go over and play for a club called the Eastern Suburbs. So it was a bit of a lifestyle change as well as like experience different style of rugby. Like English rugby is pretty crouch bind set. It's wet weather. It's a lot forward dominated. So to try and sort of experience a different lifestyle from school, get out of the bubble, go out there with a mate of mine and play some good rugby out there in the sun. So I did that for sort of 8 months, knowing that when I was coming back, I had a place at Durham, and then came back and been here ever since. Obviously, wasn't planning on being here for 4 years, but COVID was the beast it was, so that scuppered the third year. So managed to find a way to stay for the fourth, and I'm glad I did now.
Exactly. So if we bring it back to sort of playing school rugby, what was that like, and how would you sort of compare that to sort of how the career
progressed? School rugby was great. I think the attitude around it was have as much fun as possible, as it should be for every sort of 13, 14-year-old kid. But I think that's probably where it was, where I harvested an ambition. I guess I always wanted to play professional rugby, but once you get into an environment where it's so serious at school as well, you start to see it's a possible, and it's a pathway that people have taken. Oakham sort of bred a lot of athletes: Lewis Moody, Stuart Broad, Hamish Watson recently, and a few lads in my teams are now paving the way in pro sport and pro rugby. So it shows it's possible. I guess it's not necessarily the pathway to do it through university, but that's the one I took, but it ended up working. I think it's getting a lot more clout now. There's big names like Alex Dombrandt, Fitz Harding, and Josh Basham have all done similar things. So yeah, it's worked.
Nice. So would you say there was a key moment when you were like, this is possible to go pro and I want this?
I guess I'd known the whole time, as I said, I'd wanted to be a professional. I think I had 3 months playing at Cambridge in National One, which is like it's a men's league in England, and that gave me an experience of semi-professional rugby, which I enjoyed massively. But I knew there was another level to it and another level up. So once I'd done that and then came to Durham, there was a natural progression to look elsewhere further than that. I wasn't expecting it exactly this year, but the opportunity came around, and I'm glad I took it. Having to answer your question, at school, I didn't necessarily know that. I was actually released by Northampton at 18, and they managed to sort me out with the possibilities to go over to Australia and experience and play out there. And we remained in contact ever since, really. But it gave me a different opportunity, knowing that most lads will get, as we've touched on before, that you go to school, you play academy rugby, and then the academy chooses to sign you, you join their senior academy, and then from there you have the opportunity to play in the first team. Whereas my pathway was slightly different, to be released at 18 to come and get a degree instead. So I guess in some sense, when I joined here in first year, I tried to join thinking I wanted to enjoy uni in a different aspect, social life, get a degree, make some mates, make some memories, and then the rugby sort of came about secondary. Certainly my second year, it was then like, while everyone else was going into internships and placement days, and I had no real interest on that. Right. So I think I changed it in the sense that while everyone was doing those assessment centres or whatever, my mindset was to train for my future instead. So over the summers, I'd be doing a longer pre-season instead of internships. which some people couldn't understand, but quite the opposite. I couldn't see myself working in the big smoke or anything.
Not the big smoke.
No, I like everyone else in Durham.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I think that's such an interesting point because, in the moment when everyone's going one way, oh yeah, well, let's do this.
Yeah.
And then you've gone, no, actually for my future, doing this is the priority.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
You're not doing this?
Yeah.
And just to have that sort of internal confidence to go,
Yeah.
this is the path for me.
Yeah.
So did you had people come up to you like, what you doing?
I guess, yeah. And also, a lot of your mates would go straight into that rat race. Like, as soon as you arrived at Durham, maybe because it's such a high-profile university and it's successful, and all the students are going, every conversation's about the Big Four and who's got what day, and whether it's KPMG or another acronym, I don't know.
Yeah,
but I was like, okay, great. And it wasn't even a choice. I don't think I ever even thought of it. I was confident that one day I'd play rugby somewhere. I was surprised now I've got it here, but and there are times along the way I didn't think I'd get there through injury and other things going on the side. But yeah, everyone else seems to think about, and they're fair play to them. It's a hell of a career to go into. I've got mates that have secured brilliant jobs straight after university, but it's I've gone in a different path, I guess. I haven't got there yet, but hopefully.
Still have it.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. So yeah, sort of like, how hard have you worked for this, and how much did you want it?
Always massively wanted it, I guess, and I think there's all these things about 1,000 hours and putting in lots of time that no one can really see, and I think that's a sense. They're long seasons. The university lifestyle as a rugby player is pretty hectic. It's crazy. I know I have friends who don't play rugby or in sport, and they don't understand. I don't understand how they've got so much time on their hands. But I think that you learn to sort of manage your time as well as possible, and there's snippets you use throughout the week. But yeah, no, it is hard. I guess you have to work hard for everything. There are people with brilliant internships that are putting in all the effort in that, and they get the rewards. But there's also an aspect of luck in there as well, whether it's injury or elsewhere the opportunities arise. I think everything comes with a bit of luck as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you sort of first got here in Durham, what team did you start in?
I started in the first 15. I managed to get a scholarship to come here. I just about scraped the grades, but it was rugby more than anything, and it was with the Super Rugby league that it is now within Bucks. The university pathway was becoming more and more credible, so I saw it as an opportunity to get a good degree, as well as trying to look at exploring opportunities to play after uni as well.
Exactly, nice. So what degree do you do?
I did 3 years business management, which I enjoyed, but it was difficult, as most students will say, in a COVID-stricken year. And then now I'm on a student sabbatical position at the university, which was an exciting opportunity that was something different to a master's, but allowed me to do another year of uni rugby and stay on as well. There was opportunities to play some rugby in that COVID year, but I felt like there was an opportunity to captain the side this year, which I've thoroughly enjoyed as well, and I couldn't really say no to that.
No, exactly. So are there any previous Durham captains who you'd like to mention, and what have you learned from them?
A few good mates of mine. The year before me, Ben Fowles, who was a bit of a stalwart of Durham as well. We've been friends for a number of years now, and I learnt massively from him. In that third year, I think it was a lot of off-field stuff as well. So not only on the pitch, but managing a club, managing an environment.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people don't understand that about university as well. It's as close to a professional environment without anyone being paid. You're a community that's run by volunteers completely, and lads that are paying to play. You pay your subs to play for the club. The little things like booking pitch times and away travel and buses, and that most people won't even think about. There's a lot to fall on the shoulders of captains, and Ben was brilliant at that. The year before was Colin Markham, who was another big figurehead of the rugby club, as Justin Clegg was the year before that, who's now playing at Worcester.
Wow.
So it's a well-trodden path. Josh Beaumont was captain 10 years ago, and now he's an England international now. So it's crazy.
Exactly. So like, how much of your role as captain would be doing that sort of stuff compared to sort of playing and training and stuff?
Probably this year's majority of it's leading and training or analysis, player management, somewhat selection, but the coaches try to take a hand on that one.
Yeah.
It's more people management, I'd say, more than anything. And then once you get onto the pitch, it's 80 minutes of trying to keep your head in the right space while you're in a pretty fierce battle.
Exactly.
But then there are opportunities. There's stuff on the side as well. We run a lot of big charity games, which takes a lot of time and effort. But yeah, it's crazy, but it's been a lot of fun.
Nice. So you're in the changing room, the music's going.
Yeah.
Where's your head, and where are you trying to get the lads' heads as well?
Yeah, I get that a lot. I spoke about someone last week about it. It's different. I've got into my fourth year here. Maybe it's with a level of experience or something I've done before where I don't really get too nervous for these games. And maybe that helps other people who do, the younger lads, freshers who are 18, 19 years old that are coming and playing at the highest level of uni rugby standard in the country.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping that a calmer older head will help them out. The music does get pretty fiery. The games get pretty tasty, but I try to remain pretty calm throughout and touch on a few sort of short key points. If you're trying to think about too much, then you forget about everything, whereas keeping it sort of 2 or 3 key points is pretty key. And then once you get out on the pitch, there's the famous saying that everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. It's not quite that, but there are 120 kilo blokes running around trying to take your head off, so it's very similar.
Nice, man. So yeah, what are some sort of standout games you've had this season, sort of throughout your career?
This year has been great. We had the first charity game at home against Exeter. We sort of was the biggest charity game I've been involved in. We sort of had a 4,000 strong crowd.
Wow.
We raised just under 13,000 for sport and actions out there, and the game was pretty close as well. We took it to the wire. Our 10 kicked the winning penalty to win. I think it was 2017 in the end.
Wow.
So they've been pretty intense. But there are other games as well. Like you go away. This league is geographically so tough because you've got 4 teams in Wales.
Yeah.
So you're going there 4 times a year, which is you'll leave at sort of 7 a.m., 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. You won't be back to a similar time on Thursday morning. So for a uni student, that's 24 hours out of your life. That's you're gone. Yeah. So to think how many of those I've done across my tenure at Durham is a lot of travel. But yeah, we've won away at Cardiff. We've had good unbeaten runs. We were unbeaten until the Exeter game just before Christmas, which was a hell of a game to be involved in as well. And now it's a tuck-fought league. We're 1 point ahead of Exeter, but it's we're scraping for bonus points every week, and there's only 5 games left to play. So it's crazy. Yeah.
So would you say there is a clear rivalry between us and Exeter?
100%. It seems that across every sport. I think there's something quite unique in unisport with its Exeter or Loughborough and Durham, that trifecta that seems to be a pretty fierce competition within it all. But yeah, this year more than any, it's getting pretty close. We beat them earlier in the year because there's so much to fight for, whether it's European qualification or whatever. You want to be in those title races or
exactly.
Exactly.
Because it'd be no fun if you just
exactly.
Table. There's nothing
exactly.
to go
You're
for,
nothing to play for. It adds it. Maybe that's I don't get as nervous about the games. Maybe more about the result and where that puts us now as you get to the business end of the year. So it adds, as you said, it adds something to play for.
Exactly. So are there any sort of standout times you've gone away? Any sort of stories of the team going away?
Well, probably not too many I can say, but we do enjoy a few. Normally every year we go to Portugal for a pre-season.
Oh, wow.
So we'll take a group of 25 players to Cascais in Portugal, which if anyone's been there, it's a hell of a place. And but it's baking hot, so we only play rugby from sort of 7 till 9 in the morning, and then 5 till 6 in the evening. So you've got a big banker on the day to whether you're getting on the beach. Yeah, exactly. So we go there, and we have tours every 4 years that follow the Lions. Every 2 years that will go to, I think 2 years ago they went to California, which are a mixture between a jolly and some tough fought rugby, if Keezy's listening. No, but it's there are certain aspects to go away and opportunities to do so. We go to Trinity in Dublin for a couple of days. So there are plenty of stories, but
cannot be said.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice one, man. So so going out to Australia, what was that like? Sort of going to a whole new place and just being put into a whole new system of rugby.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think there's a reputation behind Australian rugby and the standard behind it. They play a different brand of rugby. It's open, it's free, it's in the sun, which was such a good experience to do. And also the lifestyle. I live sort of a couple of kilometres from Bondi Beach in the middle of Sydney with a few mates and stuff. You're a stone's throw from the golf course, football from the beach. Like, it was crazy. So different to come to Durham. Yeah, at times you miss it. But yeah, it's a long way to go. 24-hour flight going by yourself. I was like, wow, this is
some of the world.
This is as an 18-year-old, it was different, but I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And the club I went to is a club called Eastern Suburbs, right in the middle of the east of Sydney, and it was welcoming, very family-orientated club.
Nice.
But yeah, a lot of sun, a little bit of rugby, and a great experience, one memory.
That's one. So, like, obviously, when you go to a club, you want that sort of feel.
Yeah.
You had to sort of like describe the feel of like Durham rugby.
Yeah.
What would you sort of say?
Full on. It's something that you've got to buy in. I think it's the Durham Rugby Week's probably one that swallows you up. We train twice on a Monday. Tuesday is spent either catching up on work or preparing again individually for a Wednesday. Your whole Wednesday is gone pretty much, whether it's an evening kick-off at home or the away fixtures I've already touched on. There's that whole you lose a day, and then between the anxiety of playing or the excitement, you can't really work too much on that day. Thursday is spent recovering in an ice bath or stretching off or with a heavy head more than anything. And then Friday we train twice again, and then Saturday is 2 hours in the morning. So it's a full week. So yeah, you can't hang out. You got to buy into it pretty early on. But there's also massive opportunities to make friends for life. I've lived with mates I met in first year of the first day of pre-season. We come 6 weeks before everyone arrives at Durham, so we're well into early August and the end of July. So as a fresher, it was brilliant because you've made such a good core group of mates before anyone else has turned up at university.
Exactly.
But no, it's a brilliant lifestyle of getting a good degree, but mixing with high quality rugby. And I think it's a common goal as well. There's a collective buy-in and a common goal to play good rugby and enjoy a good social life as well.
Exactly, nice one. So just to touch more on sort of like a mindset and leadership, what would you say makes a good leader, especially a rugby leader, a captain?
A good listener as well as a good talker. Listening to others. I think a lot of it is man management and working out what makes people tick. No two people are the same.
Right.
There are older lads that I know far better than I do the freshers now, so it's been good work to try to get to know what makes them tick on a rugby field. It's a tough mindset to get into, to realise that you're going to have 80 minutes of essentially hurting yourself willingly. No, but it's what else makes a good leader? A listener's massive. Falzu's one that I understood. I learnt that from. I've been in leadership positions my whole way through sort of school, and then rugby into here. So trying to learn and take little bits from everyone, the leaders and coaches you've had before. Listeners, as well as managing the ref. I think having good relationships with referees nowadays in rugby fixtures is pretty key. As no matter what you do, the man in the middle controls that. So something I've tried really hard this year to try and do. But yeah.
Nice one. So any standout coaches that you've had that sort of you took real inspiration or learned from?
At school, I had a guy called Ian Smith who played thousands of times for Tigers back in the day.
Wow.
And he was sort of a figurehead for that school team, and I learned a lot from him. I'm still in touch with him now. So he was someone I learned from massively. And then coming into uni, Alex Key, who's been here for God knows how many years now, but he's someone I've learnt off massively and have a good relationship on and off the field. So I think there's a level of trust as a captain you have in your head coach as well, to offload a lot of your own worries or the workload. And he's certainly one that puts his players well before himself.
Exactly. I think there's a big thing in leadership called like servant leadership,
where
you're sort of putting yourself last in order to put your sort of men or your team in front of you. How important would you say that is?
It's a tough one to say you do. Maybe someone else would have to say it. It's one of those where you come into the room and you'd rather sit at the back and be asked to move forward than sit in the front and be pushed to the back. So I'd hope some players that play with me would say I do a similar thing. But with rugby, it's such a high contact sport that a lot of it, we've got leaders in the team, Jack Hill or Marin or Jamie or Joe, that would put their body on the line, that they don't have the captaincy title, but their leadership through stature, perhaps not rather than nature. And they're people that you'd follow anywhere. And they certainly, as lieutenants, help me out massively.
Yeah, because obviously it's not just going to be you, and then everyone below you
Yeah,
has to be sort of structure.
It is. Yeah, it is. And with rugby being, there's so many facets to it, whether it's line out, scrum, or maul, or the kicking game, or the backfield, or there are people in the team that will take charge of each of those aspects. Exactly. And then as a synergy, it helps me far more than an individual. At the end of the day, it's a title, and the rest of them live up to it. So yeah, as I said, those players, lieutenants within the side, massively help me, as it means I don't have to concentrate too much on everything, and can just do the game day stuff.
Exactly. So sort of emotionally before the game, are you sort of in like an aggressive mindset, or where's the head? I'm just trying to sort of
I think for me, probably not. No, I try to remain pretty calm.
Yeah.
It's difficult because stereotypically rugby players are normally banging their heads against the wall, or trying to get into the right headspace to know that someone's is out there going after you. But I think if I was to do that, then it'd be slightly different for the team ethos and environment that they're creating. I think we've done well this year in staying calm throughout, and stick very sort of process driven, because I think there's that bell curve of over arousal.
Yeah.
And if you can get to that stage, then you start becoming a bit of a liability. Certainly discipline wise, it's tough. But no, I try to remain pretty calm. But then as soon as you get out onto the pitch and the first person hits you, it's like, whoa, wow, right, we're into it.
Because I saw this stuff as well. It's like sometimes you guys can experience like serious G-force from it as well. So like 6 or something, 8 G or so somewhere.
We had our Jamie, our S&C does our GPS, so we're all wearing GPS in the games, and you'll get stats after the game of like how many Gs you've had in the game. So whether it's a 3 to a 5G or a 5 to 10G, some lads will get 10 to 15.
10G.
Yeah, some lads will get 10 to 15 Gs, which is like a small car crash, or a fairly big car crash.
Yeah, it's a major car crash.
Multiple times a game, which is not ideal, which is not good for your neck at all. But no, it's as safe as we can make it.
So I do a lot of flying, so we do a bit of G ourselves.
Yeah.
The most I've ever pulled in like an aerobatic aircraft is like 4G. So you're putting 15, like even in like a Typhoon, like a fighter jet, you're putting 9.
Yeah.
And you're doing 15 multiple times.
Yeah.
Right? As insane.
It's good. If the technique right, then it's a lot of fun. But it's
exactly,
there are cases where it's not. People haven't got it right, but it's a crazy sport. To explain it to someone that doesn't know it, it's difficult, and they don't understand why you do it. But I think the feeling after a game, if you're having a beer, or that feeling of pain and soreness is what you really miss. Certainly over COVID when we weren't playing, I think more than anything that post-game feeling was what I was missing more than anything.
Exactly, because it's like you've earned it, haven't you?
Exactly.
There's a man called David Goggins.
Yes. Yeah.
So like, I remember he did this massive like ultramarathon, like shit himself.
Yeah.
And was like about to like die. His heart was failing. Yeah. It was like his wife was like, "It's easy to go to hospital now," and he's like, "No, let me enjoy this pain."
Yeah.
It's that same sort of thing. Yeah.
You completely miss it. I mean, there's people that have played 20 years of professional rugby and retire. Like, I tell you what I don't miss is the training and all that. I do miss being in the changing room, the camaraderie of the rugby environment, and that post-game feeling. Because unless you do it, you won't understand it. It's like that Black Hawk Down. Like you wouldn't know, man. You're not there. That one.
Yeah.
It's exactly that.
I think it's a lot of comparables with like the armed forces as well.
Yeah.
Because that sort of high intensity sort of physical environment.
Yeah.
And then afterwards when you finish, you're like, I want that more. I want to chase the feeling.
Yeah,
chasing the feeling.
You completely do. And a lot of the times you're so emotionally drained, or put yourself into an emotional headspace that you can't sleep. You're so physically drained that you can't then sleep. It's such a weird.
It's so
the irony. Yeah. It's crazy, but the amount of caffeine and stuff you're putting into your body as well. I mean, there are times where I get back home after a game and you just lie awake thinking about, what if I did this, or what if I did that, which is never a good thing.
No.
But no, you can't help yourself, I guess.
There's always that feeling of sort of what if, isn't there?
Yeah, which is the worst sportsman's ever.
So you sort of no, we've done it. It's put to bed.
Yeah.
On to the next. What can I tangibly do now to change something?
Yeah, exactly.
But So another thing I sort of have been thinking about as well, like mindset wise, is like how much are you invested in it as well?
Yeah.
Because sometimes like if you're too invested emotionally, like do you in as well?
Yeah.
So you have to be a little bit sort of taken away, as I can sort of tell from talking to you. You are. It's like my head has to remain calm because if it doesn't, then
There's the cliche is this whole fire in the belly, ice in the mind sort of thing. Like your body has to be doing something, but your head has to remain fairly level. I found that difficult as a captain. It's you're trying to go to war and then have to make decisions and stay fairly rational. It's a difficult balance to make, and I don't think anyone's perfected it.
No.
But there are different ways of making people tick, as we've talked about. So some people are fully emotionally driven.
Yeah.
We talk about it as a team this year that some games are so filled with emotion. Those charity games at Exeter, when they're in front of 4,000 people, is like they do the emotion for you, but you won't get that every game. So you might play Cardiff away, or another game there'll be one man and his dog. And it's very difficult to get yourself up to that as much as you did for. So you have to find a level of drive that is just stick to a process, do your job, know your role, execute that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how much of the game is sort of driven by sort of the drills that are already established in training?
I think you strive for autonomy. So like thinking about you don't want to get into a game and have to think about too much.
Yeah.
I think the hours you put into training is so that it becomes autonomous once you get onto the pitch. You don't think about line out any of the bodies. You can put more into reading the opposition or chasing the game. So yeah, it's a lot of the stuff that you do, and that's why pre-seasons are so long. You can have 6-week pre-seasons which are spent running and passing and doing the basic stuff, so that once you get 12 games into a season, you don't have to think about am I fit enough, because you've been doing it for the last 8 weeks or so.
Exactly, because you put the work
in.
Exactly. I am tangibly fit. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's always sort of like it's a big stack of things, because if that's not right, then that doesn't work.
Yeah.
If that doesn't work,
undermines
like in the game.
Yeah, exactly. And second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
I've had it in the game rather than around and be like, am I fit enough here? Why am I blowing here?
Yeah,
I shouldn't be blowing. And then, as soon as you start thinking about that, you forget about the other things. I was doing someone's DIS interview the other day. It was very similar, like, how much are you thinking on the pitch?
Yeah.
And that, truth be told, not a lot. It's like, I'm as a leader or a captain, I'm sure the other lads will do the same. They're thinking about other people. So they're like, how is this guy all right? Or, what can we do to get more out of him? And I guess that's more an experience thing. Now I've been there, going into a new environment at Bristol over Christmas. I guess I was that guy. Like, you don't know, and not as many people. You don't know their processes, and as welcoming as they were, which is amazing. It's like my anxiety came from, or nerves came from, doing my role to the best of your ability. And I guess more, you don't want to let someone down. So I was always looking for affirmations from senior players, which is, I guess, something that we've got in Durham as well. But I guess this is the same at every new club.
Exactly. It's all sort of a hierarchy, isn't it? Because the new guys coming through like our system here. And if one of you senior lads was to say something to them, it'd be like, oh, he said that to me. And that sort of like reaffirms to them. It becomes sort of like a belief for them, and that therefore means they can achieve more. Because the beliefs are in check. Because you could be a really sound rugby player, but if you have a limiting belief about something, despite you tangibly having the skill set to do it, you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's massively. Confidence is huge. I think in all sport as well, and rugby's different because you can get hurt very easily. So confidence in tackle and defence is so important. So for young lads, for coming into the team, we have to find a balance between, I guess, not hostility, but maintaining a standard that's as high as it physically can be, and then meeting that standard, as well as trying to not shoot confidence or mess with that too much. So it's a tough balancing act. Yeah,
exactly. Because you could say something to someone like, shout at them, that can make them go, play the best of their ability.
Oh, some lads respond. I chat with coaches about it, and some lads respond to criticism really well, and they want to be told this was rubbish, or they want to be told they were in the wrong position. Some lads are more of a need that pastoral support, so you might say, can I have coffee, or let's chat about this. So I still don't, truth be told, I don't know everyone completely, so it's difficult to get the balance right and to read people. But I think that's a lot of what the leadership role this year has been.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Because it's like that's why I think socials come in as well, because that means you can actually get to know people, which then helps you understand how they best respond, which does overall contribute to sort of the team synergy and the ability for you to sort of win games.
Yeah, we had a trip fairly early in the year down to just near the Lake District, and there's one of them where we went to play rugby, but we also went to have a few beers, get to know each other, and that's benefited now into the season. As exactly you say, you get to know people more than just a rugby player, as more of a person as well.
Exactly, that's really important as well, because if you see them as that, then it's that sort of more holistic thing.
Exactly.
Sort of understanding them, and not just the role on the pitch.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just to touch on sort of the Bristol stuff.
Yeah.
How did that come about? And what was it like when you went there for the time?
I think as I went into my third year, so that COVID struck the year, was I was looking to explore opportunities to play rugby after university. I was having a few chats with a couple of places, and then obviously we weren't able to play any rugby, which was massively disappointing. But then it just meant I had a 4 years training and getting little injuries and stuff back to where I wanted them. And then over the summer, as you know, you put together all your highlight reels and your videos and all that sort of stuff, and spoke to my agent, and we just said, look, let's try and attack this year as best as possible. I had no expectation to think it would come this early on. So yeah, we had a few chats with Bristol initially. I think the in came Fitzharding signed there last year, so they had a bit of an eye on Durham anyway. So I guess I can thank him for that anyway. Getting his slipstream, and he's going pretty well at the minute. So we sort of benefited from that, and then I think Bristol came up to play Newcastle in the Prem up here, and came over to one of our training sessions, and just we had a chat there, and then various points throughout the year I've been down for 2 or 3 days just to see the place and to meet a few of the guys down there, and then had 6 weeks or 5 weeks over there at Christmas, which I wasn't expecting, but it was just a sort of like an injury cover type thing. So I managed to get a travelling reserve for a few games, which was such an amazing experience, like just to see the next step up in full crowds and that professional high performance sport, because at the end of the day, uni sport is high performance, but it isn't that professional aspect. There are still coaches that have day jobs, so it's very different, and the buy-in at Bristol was brilliant. There was a real brotherhood, and they were so friendly as well, which is we made a really easy decision to sign there.
Exactly. So you touched on having an agent. Is that something you've just got yourself, or do many players sort of take that up as they're trying to get professional?
Lots of them will have them. They're pretty handy when it comes to sort of contractual negotiation and stuff and getting a foot in the door. But my agent was at Durham. Ben Woods used to, he was here, I wouldn't know how long ago, 20 years ago or so, and then went on to play professional rugby from Durham, and then came back and coached Durham as well as doing his owning an agency there. So I know there are mates and lads in the teams that will have agents that are always looking at opportunities. But then it goes back to that luck thing again. If you've got an agent in position and an injury happens at a team and your agent knows the ins and outs of it, you can get in. So I guess maybe mine was luck as well. But the lads who get into these professional environments and do so well, they just take their opportunity with both hands, and just show what especially for young lads, seeing lads on TV now that you play with, or people that have been at Durham. Ben Stevenson was in third year when I was in first year, and he's ripping it up pretty well at Newcastle. Josh Basham, and seeing those guys that you've wore a Durham shirt with, it's now certainly motivating lads who are next in the line on the pathway. But no, it's a crazy just to see split second what can happen. From when you're at Hollowdrift to then when you're at Twickenham or something, it's like,
whoa, I'm not here. What is that?
How on earth?
Honestly, I think there is a big point of sort of making your own luck as well, because obviously you've worked extremely hard and sort of done the legwork to get to this position. There's sort of like a term in sort of like aerial warfare, like when you're like dogfighting, is if you're not in the right space to take the shot, you can't take the shot. So you have to maneuver to do the work and get there. And obviously you have, and it's paid off. So that's really sick.
But I think there's probably more stories of people that have put in the same amount of work and not had the opportunity, or that little breach in luck. and
Exactly.
and haven't managed to go further with it. So yeah, I'm massively thankful for the opportunity to do so, and yeah, I'm just massively excited to get going more than anything.
Nice. So when you spent the time over Christmas, what was it like day to day? What sort of stuff did they do?
Different from here,
Yeah,
completely in the
yeah,
sense that you're fitting rugby in around university. That was just a full investment into becoming the best performance athlete, and everything about the environment was 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 centered towards that. So the coaching, the facilities, the nutrition, um, everything was made specifically towards high performance.
yeah,
So for that snapshot of 5 weeks, it was just like, yeah, you open your eyes to it, and all you can do is learn. And I just
yeah,
tried to get involved in as much as I could, and yeah, it was completely crazy. And you're brushing shoulders with senior international and players like some of the best players in the world.
yeah. You're like, well, hello.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just an amazing environment, and I think the biggest thing was just how welcoming it was. I mean, everyone says it, but for me, I turned up and didn't know a single person. At breakfast, everyone knew your name, and so those little things.
Wow. So they already knew you.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah,
Because I know that sort of like, oh, sorry, what's your name?
yeah.
Oh, Fred. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was great. But yeah, that made the decision easy to choose Bristol.
Exactly. So we talked about nutrition there. How
Yeah.
important would you say nutrition is for a rugby player?
Massive. In all aspects, I think there's recovery is probably the big one, and then there aren't many small rugby players around either. So making sure you're getting enough food in more than anything. I think uni nutrition is slightly different in the sense that you make up most of your calories through hops and barley. But no, I think that was the big difference when you go down to an environment, everything's measured, and it's tailored to what your needs and specific to position or your own playing performance. Some players might need to eat more, some players might need to eat less. Hydration, that sort of stuff, recovery, saunas and ice baths and stretchings, something that now once I'm back in Durham, I'm trying to do more of. Because I think it goes back to your point about the work you do off the field. I think there's so much you can do that isn't with a rugby ball in your hand. So that's physical preparation, psychological preparation. They had a massive thing about mental skills coaching, and sort of psychoanalysis of your own game, the team environment, how we get the best out of the environment the whole time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to if I can make the most of using him when I'm down there. That's certainly, I think, as a hooker, you throw a lot of lineouts and stuff, so it's quite a nerve-wracking thing. It's quite it's a closed skill, but there's so many bits involved, like the weather, or whether it's windy, is it raining, where are they, what are they doing? So, like as the old Ireland captain Rory Best, he was captain of Ireland. He said at some stages he was avoiding going for lineouts because he was so nervous that he wouldn't be able to hit the line out.
Wow.
So like now when I'm captain, I'm like, oh, make sure you don't do that. Make sure you don't do that. And then you're like, oh no. But no, and as soon as you miss, it's like goal kicking or taking a free kick. As soon as or a penalty, as soon as you miss one, you're then second guessing. And so to be able to use someone that's job is to work out what do you need mentally that will get you in the right headspace to do that. So that's something I'm looking forward to take advantage of. I think.
So what sort of stuff would they provide them? Just like talking or like other stuff?
Yeah, visualization, affirmations, visualizations, having quite open and honest chats. With feedback, closing that being self-critical, but also critical of others, and not being afraid to call people out. There's I think that's one of the big things I've tried to put back into the Durham experience is you'll only get better by someone telling you to get better, or there's probably not as an embarrassment, but you don't want to let people down. And if someone's saying that wasn't good enough, or you weren't here, you just knowing your role better, probably subconsciously is helping you. But yeah, they're massively into that.
So with that, it's like the whole thing of you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So there could be something that's so blatantly obvious to a third party.
Yeah.
But you have no idea you're doing yourself.
Yeah.
And it just takes someone to actually make you doing this wrong. You're like, oh, I've realised that. Thanks. I'm going to change that now.
Yeah.
Like it takes mature people for that conversation to happen.
Yeah.
When egos gets involved, then obviously that can't really be facilitated as well.
I think it's having those honest conversations with yourself as well.
Yeah.
I'd few this year fairly early in my captaincy about players being like, look, I don't respond. It's hard to make a read, as we've touched on, but some players respond to that criticism. Some players respond to the difference between shouting and saying, could you be better here? And so for me as a leader, I'm still learning that difference between the two. I respond quite well to someone screaming and telling me that, but someone because you won't forget it.
No, exactly.
And but there's some people who want that pastoral arm and come on, one more. At the end of the day, there might not be one more. So
this is the only option.
Exactly. But no, I'd be interested to benefit from that visualization and stuff, but then also not think too much into it. So again, it's all about balance.
Exactly. So what I found really interesting there is the visualization stuff. So in like fast jet training in the Air Force, they apply that massively. It's called chair flying. So before you do like a sortie, like a bit of flying training, you'll sit in a chair and you'll literally visualize all the checks you're doing, and then you flying the sortie in your head before you do it. Because it's the whole thing of if you can see it, then you can make it happen, sort of thing. So anything, if you can perceive that that's possible, then you can do it. Like, if you didn't believe you couldn't play professional rugby. If you believed, I'm never going to make it, you're not going to make it. It's that's from a lot of high performance people that I've sort of read about or even spoke to. It's like there's always been on some level an understanding that they would succeed. Because like, if that wasn't there, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't draw the correct things to yourself that would enable that to happen. Because it's like step. It's like, whoa, if that one little thing didn't happen, I would be in a completely different position right now.
It's completely, and it's all confidence as well. But I completely agree. The visualization stuff's massively important. It's not something I've done now, but I want to learn how to do it, well, more than anything. It's a completely different environment. I guess there are so many similarities between, as you're saying, performance sport and the armed forces, where there's a level of risk.
Of
so
course.
Unless you risk it, you're not going to get the reward from it. And I think it's far more as a mortal risk in the army and stuff. But for us, it's injury or not taking opportunities. No.
Exactly, because as you said, it is all that confidence. I saw a quote. It was like your reality grows or shrinks depending on your level of confidence. So to someone who'd say, is all right but wants to grow in confidence, especially with their rugby, what would you say to them?
I think, to use your own words, it's do as many reps without people seeing to make you better, that when they do start seeing it, they're like, oh, he's obviously done this before. Whether it's throwing or kicking, the sort of the work you do in the dark or the work you do before and after training will translate to opportunity and risk. Because if you've thrown 1,000 lineouts, when you get the opportunity to throw one in front of someone, you know that it's muscle memory. So developing confidence in that aspect. And then I've always found, especially in new environments, getting affirmation from others. So with scrummaging or lineouts, is saying, was this right, or how could I get better at this? So asking the question, because if you don't ask it, you're going to be asking yourself it later on. So you might as well ask them and get some honest feedback from it. It comes with experience. As I said, experience at Durham now is so different to the experience going into somewhere new. I'm just looking forward to being the fresher again.
To be the fresh. Oh man. But so another thing I think was really interesting as well is calling people out. So there's another thing, I was speaking to this man on the RAF base, it's quite a senior bloke. And he was just saying, like, sometimes you have to say sir with respect, but so even when people are in positions of authority, so let's say there was a younger person in the team and they saw something was going not right with someone more senior, there'd still be that sort of openness of going, right, you can improve here, even though they're perceived as less senior, they can still have that
100%. I think it's a level playing field, and I mean, I've had it this year where I've been called out and been like, you need to get better at this, or you need to work out how to speak to this person better, or to work out how you respond better to certain things. And it's not, no one likes hearing it, but it's worthwhile, because now it functions better as a synergy of others. But it's massive. And in that at Bristol, in that environment, those, in team meetings, calling someone out and saying, and then having the right to reply, I think is massive as well. So if they're saying, look, why weren't you there? And he goes, well, hang on a minute, I was there, but he wasn't there. It's not a shoot.
It wasn't my fault, mate.
It's not a shoot off. And I think it's taking your own responsibility. And at Durham, we're massively on keeping accountable.
Yeah.
So if you own up before we say, so if let's say Fred, you missed a line out, what happened here? I'd hope that before they said that, I'd apologise for missing the line out, sort of thing. So if you take an accountability of your own game, 15 players will do that, then the level of self critique and feedback doesn't need to be so critical.
Exactly. Another thing as well, I thought was quite interesting what you said is how if you don't ask someone, like an external person, what's gone wrong, they're better, then it's going to be in my head, right, I've done this wrong. So you're going to instantly go to the most negative possible situation.
Yeah.
And then that's not good for the sort of belief and confidence side. So asking and sort of getting that response, whether good or bad.
Yeah. And sometimes it might not even be your fault. Like
exactly.
if you were to ask them, oh, why did I do this wrong? Did I miss something here? And they said, no, this was this other person instead. Because they'll know more than you.
Exactly.
And then you'll be like, all right, fine. And then you won't be thinking about that the whole time. I think there's the anxiety you take into everyday life, it's pretty translatable.
Exactly. So would you say playing rugby has sort of made you a better person? How have you taken the rugby skills and brought them into your normal life?
I don't know, firstly. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I think it changes you as a person, but I think it sort of becomes your personality as much as I think there's a massive thing now in the game that you have to do stuff that isn't rugby. So like find a passion, find a hobby. I'm worried now that what I'm going to do next year, where I'm going to find that passion, but it gives you another out. So it's not all rugby, and your personality develops elsewhere. I think there are certain aspects of your personality that develop communication skills and leadership and understanding teamwork, team environments, and it's now so relatable in employment work. That's within my rugby team are getting great job offers. And a lot of that is on their feedback is you understand team environments, you understand what makes things work as an ethos, driving factors. So certainly it probably does, but it's hard to put your characteristics. I wouldn't know. It's like that. It's the whole branding thing. It's like what other people say about you when you're not in the room.
Exactly.
That's your brand. So yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Sick, honestly.
Yeah.
You just imagine you're never going to hear the conversations, are you?
No.
So you just want to, you'd hope that they're saying nice things.
Yeah.
But if they're not, then why not?
Yeah.
And then what are you doing wrong that's causing that sort of thing?
I guess you don't have to be everyone's cup of tea.
Exactly.
And I understand that, but it's and you won't, by disappointing someone, you won't be, and driving a high level and a high standard is something I'm massively keen on. That might disappoint people, and in selection and stuff, I've been at the other end of it where I haven't been selected, and I know that I'm angry about that. But for the team to do what they need to do, it might be better without me there. So that helps you grow as a person, and adding different strings to your bow as well.
But sort of recognising that their purpose is to win games, and if you as a player, you may be the best player, but the way you play doesn't fit with their team, it may not work. And there may be another team like whoever else who yes, we really really want you because you fit their mould. But you're not. The whole point is you're not trying to put one puzzle piece in the wrong place. It has to fit.
Exactly.
Where it needs to go.
It's all part of it. Yeah, exactly. Completely agree.
And it's like when one door shuts, like two more open.
Yeah.
Is there a time where you've sort of failed and you've really learned from it as well?
I guess at 18, I'm taken on by Northampton. I was moving positions and they were pretty stocked and stuff. So even though I played a lot of rugby there in the Academy League, they went, have a look elsewhere. And in fairness to them, there's look, we'll help you out and explore the Australia opportunity. But no one likes to be said no to, sort of thing. So, but now looking back on it, you learn so much more, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to Australia. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to Durham. I wouldn't have the opportunity to motivate. So I guess it's completely sliding doors moments, as you say. So this whole everything happens for a reason. I agree with somewhat, and there are times like this where you probably see that, but in the moment, such utter disappointment where something you've worked so hard for, you couldn't get, and you can't understand why. Like no matter what everyone tells you, it's natural instinct, human instinct to think, well, I'm better than this, or why not, or why is he here, or there must be a reason for it. Then when you look back sort of 4 or 5 years later, it's like, all right, that's all right then.
It's like that perspective. If you're looking at, say, like a canvas or a picture, your eyes are pressed up against it. You're not going to see the whole painting. You're going to take that step back, which is time, these 5 years. And you go, well, that's where that fits in this whole thing.
The whole lifestyle, yeah, it's exactly you say, sliding doors moments. Yeah,
So that's insane. So if someone was to say not be at Durham
yeah,
and be really keen on their rugby,
yeah.
why should they come to Durham and play?
At the sales pitch,
The
eh?
old sales pitch.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few prongs to this. I think the first is the people before you, and this I haven't done it. I'm not there yet, so don't use me as an example. But there are Fitz Hardings, there are Josh Bashams, they enjoyed Durham as much socially and friends as they did for the rugby. So they've come and they're not losing out on anything. That's the
No,
big thing is you're coming, you're getting a good degree, you're getting the lifestyle you want as a 19, 18, 19, 20-year old. You know, these are the times of your life more than anything, and they go so quickly. It's just a little snapshot now, and now I'm leaving towards the end of the year. Now, you you, you wish you could do it all again, um, but you're also playing a high level of rugby and making mates doing so. And I know at that crossroads at 18 where I didn't get taken on, and a lot of my mates did. We've now had conversations where, whether it be through lack of opportunity or just perhaps regret, they've said, I wish I'd done university. I wish I'd had
wow.
3 years, because you're not losing out on anything
No.
if you can still make it. I'm sure Fitzy will say first more than anything, like he's happy he went here
Yeah,
and did what he did. And to win like 2 years ago when we won the league, those that was sort of the best season we'd had um, on and off the pitch, just because we got the balance right, I think. And so
exactly.
trying again this year, yeah, no, it's an enjoyable environment. You get a you get a great degree if you put the work in, and you get as close to high performance professional rugby without the profession bit.
Exactly. I think that's a big aspect of uni as well. Is it's sort of you're doing the thing before you do the thing in a
Yeah,
safe environment.
yeah,
Because then you can make the mistakes,
yeah,
learn from it, and
yeah,
then when you're ready to go and do it for real,
yeah,
you don't have to fall when it matters. As you've said, you've done the reps in the dark.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
ready.
exactly, yeah,
You're ready
exactly.
for that environment.
I think it's like if you go to boarding school. Boarding school is great, but you weren't ever able to drink or and then you come to
Yeah,
university, especially Durham, because it is one big boarding school, isn't it? Everyone knows
yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
The collegiate system's like boarding houses, and you walk around, you'll never be a stone's throw from someone you know, or it'll be
Exactly,
always be, oh, I'm a mate of a mate, a mate of a mate is someone's mate.
exactly.
And so it's boarding school. You can have a few beers as well as playing high sport, and it's not just rugby. It's there's anything else in bucks as well. Cricketers and mates of mine that will say the same thing. A good mate of mine, Chris Benjamin, last year left, and it's like these sliding doors moment. He didn't have anything planned officially, and then he finds a contract at Warwickshire, and then within 3 weeks he's playing in the 100, and it's in front of
3 weeks time. Yeah. Whoa.
and
Hello.
then he went over and played in the Dubai Tens, and
Wow.
so and last year we were having a beer in the Swan together. So it's like,
Exactly.
how does that work? Yeah.
Whoa. It's sort of that not knowing sometimes is the best part.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to come
No,
next.
yeah, exactly. Come with an open mind, and you should be all right.
Exactly. Nice one. So yeah. So if someone was to come and they're set on it and they want to come in,
Yeah.
what advice would you have to them as to become the best rugby player they can?
Throw yourself into it. Take advantage of all the facilities, because from school this is a different level. It's the next step up.
Definitely.
I think you get to a professional environment, that's the next step up from here. But this is close to Bristol. Came here and saw this, the level of gym facilities and what we got on offer, and said, wow,
Yeah,
they've got,
wow.
yeah, and they've got what they've got. So take advantage, grab it with both hands, and just throw yourself into it. There's a level of confidence. I don't think it's arrogance, but confidence you need to have in doing so. Whether it's making friends, because it's a tough environment to get into. You're 18, you're coming into somewhere completely new. You haven't got any mates here, and you've got to use probably the vehicle through sport to make your friends. But everyone's, we talked about it, the collective mindset, the buy-in that we all want the same thing. So aligning collective goals is pretty massive. What other advice I'd give them? Enjoy yourself. I was conscious as a fresher that I knew I wanted to play professional rugby, but I didn't want to sacrifice going out or stopping having a beer with a mate or going to a party or going to a 21st, thinking that, oh no, because in 3 years' time I want to be getting a professional rugby contract. The way it's aligned, luckily, is that's happened. but I've also managed to enjoy everything else about uni. And uni's far more than a curriculum. It's everything else, living by yourself for the first time out of school, and that lifestyle that I think I learned more extracurricular, so that's not on my degree. The whole University of Life thing more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. But that's so good. I think that as someone comments on me, it is that sort of believing in yourself, knowing that everyone else is in the same boat.
Yeah.
That's a big thing with sort of issues and stuff. People think it's just me.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who's thinking or feeling like this.
No.
Then you realise that everyone else is feeling the same.
Yeah.
Just a weird sort of comparison that I was told the other day in marine training when you're doing your like 30 miler, you're running a line, so it's always the guy at the back of the line who's feeling it the most.
Yeah.
Because they can't see anyone's faces.
Yeah.
They're just thinking like, right, everyone else is pacing it away, and I'm just the one hanging out.
Yeah.
And then I'll sort of move them to the front of the line, and they're like, yeah, look at me, I'm leaving the line, I'm fine. And the guy who's then been moved to the back, they're like, shit.
Yeah.
Because they can't see that anyone else is suffering,
But you also can't see that from the front as well. Like
Exactly.
The guy at the front's like, is anyone else struggling here? Or
am I setting the pace too slow?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's interesting really. And also just on the topic of sort of mental health as well.
Yeah.
It's one of our sort of finishing points.
Yeah.
You represent the Blake's charity
Yes.
as well. So what's all that about?
Started it was an old Locamian. He must have been 5-6 years above me. He messaged me a while back and said, look, they've got involved, and I had something I'd followed on Instagram and seen the support he'd done and the work he does there, which is brilliant. And I think it's just breaking stigma more than anything. And I did a piece when I started for Bucks about stigmatizing mental health, and now it's had such a platform, how it's become such a normal thing to talk about, especially in rugby, which is such a masculine-driven thing.
Yeah.
It's all testosterone and high pace.
Yeah.
But to stop and think about mental health is probably something that's still fairly juvenile within the sport, and I think probably still in society. But it's great to see that there are charities and organisations and public figureheads that are standing up and saying, I think it's like Dr. Alex, isn't he? He's standing up and saying, look, we need to think about this. So it's getting a lot more airtime, which it needs. And in high performance sport, more than anything, is you're seeing England teams, whether it's football or rugby, and players that are getting outed and for missing kicks but no, they're doing brilliant work, and we're happy to support them this year with one of the charity games, and I'll certainly continue to do so.
Exactly. Well, Fred, I'll just end with this final point. If you had a billboard that the entire world could see, what would it say on it and why?
Wow.
Yeah, always get a reaction.
It would say something very small, so no one would see it. What would it say? I don't think I'd write it. I'd get 3 or 4 people and say, each of you put a word on there, and I wouldn't want to see it, and then let everyone else read it. I think it comes back to that brand thing. Like, it's what other people say that matters more than anything. So I think I'd let someone else do it.
Nice. So there'd be people who sort of knew you was doing it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
So good. I've never had that answer before. Anyway, Fred, thank you so much for coming on today, and the best of luck with Bristol Bears on starting at the time.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But no, massive thanks for coming on. It's been great.
All right, thank you so much. Anyway, this has been this week's episode of the Lawless podcast, and we'll see you in the next one.